Hey, yo, you are now locked in with the Bookem Show. Building bridges, baby.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bookem here, and you are now watching the Bookem Show. If you're not watching, you're listening to the Bookem Show. I am your host, Bookem. I am a law enforcement officer now for 17, going on 18 years. But outside of that, I'm a father, a husband, a son, brother, cousin, so on and so forth. I'm also a hip-hop artist. I love music, and I do community outreach and community policing through the Bridges Project, Inc., which is a nonprofit based out of New Jersey. Now, quick disclaimer, anything I say should not be deemed as a reflection of my department, any colleagues, supervisors, administrators, co-workers, civilians, K-9s, or anyone that identifies as a law enforcement officer that has an affiliation with my department. These are solely my views, my opinions, my research. I'm currently off duty, and I am in my studio recording this episode. Now let's go. All right, we're going to talk about what's been going on in law enforcement and what's going on with the mass exodus. A lot of people are leaving the profession lately, and it's been happening more and more within the last 2 or 3 years. I did a little bit of research. I read on it. Common sense tells us some of the main reasons why law enforcement officers are quitting the job and choosing another profession altogether. And if they're not quitting, they're just getting burnt out, right? And they're retiring early. They're just leaving the profession. We just had an officer who abruptly left my department from one day to the next. Good officer, right? I'm not going to mention names, obviously, but from one day to the next left, okay? And left a lot of people with questions on their mind. So it's an intriguing topic for me. I know why, and a lot of us that are watching this or hearing this know what the reason is. And it's, elephants in the room. We all know, okay? But I'm going to go over some research that I looked up, okay? 5 reasons why law enforcement officers, the 5 main reasons why statistically law enforcement officers are leaving the job. Number 1, reality sets in. The job is a lot harder than what is perceived to be before you take the job. A lot of people believe that, that it's what they see in Hollywood. There's a lot of things underlying. You don't go to, you're not going to calls for service that are running and gunning every single time. A lot of times you're going to, block driveway, noise complaints, these calls that can be annoying for a patrolman or an officer. And you're also a social worker. You're a guidance counselor. You're, at times a psychiatrist. When you're doing crisis intervention, you're dealing with people that have mental illness, emotionally disturbed people, so on and so forth. So the job isn't always catching criminals or going out there and getting guns and drugs and gang members off the street. A lot of times you got to do other services, right? So number 2 is salary and compensation. A lot of officers are underpaid from all over the nation, okay? Some departments are overpaid, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. I believe, in my opinion, that the more you work, the busier your respective department is, the busier, the higher the call volume is, or the calls for services, you should get compensated more. This is one of my favorite. Number 3, lack of respect and acknowledgement or appreciation. That goes across the board. When I say this, or when I hear this, or when I read this phrase, a lot of people might perceive it to be like acknowledgement from supervisors and acknowledgement that you're doing a great job. No, me personally, I want to know that I'm doing a good job from the public, the people that I serve. That's just me personally. Hearing it from your bosses is also fantastic. I'm not saying that we don't want to hear that, but it feels good when it comes from the community that you serve, right? It just hits a different chord when you hear the public come out and say, oh man, we love this officer and we love what you do for our community. And then when you go back to headquarters, it's good to hear it from your captain. It's good to hear it from your bosses going down the chain, lieutenant and sergeant. I'm sorry. But it's also good to hear it from your colleagues, the ones that are, same level as you, right? Officers, detectives, they have a stipend. They're a higher grade of an officer, but it's good to hear it from them. I'll give you an example. The other day, won't mention his name, a brother of mine that's in law enforcement, highly respected, approached me and really, spoke spoke life into me. What I mean by that, he told me, man, listen, I appreciate you, so on and so forth, and said some wonderful things to me that really, really motivated me and really made me feel good and energized me and fueled me to move forward in my job. And wow, man, I'm doing something good and people are noticing it. And it really feels good when you get that acknowledgement. So that's very important, that you not only get it from your supervisors in the administration, but it's also important that you get it from the general public and your peers and the colleagues that you work with within your squad, within your unit, within your team. It feels good when they speak life into you and acknowledge that you're doing a good job. Number 4 is working long hours. Me, I work what's called the Pittman schedule, 12-hour days, but I only work 14 days a month if I want to, right? I work in between days to do overtime, but there are a lot of departments that do have 8-hour shifts, but then they're mandated to work another 8 hours because they're short, so they have to work 16 hours, and the call volume is tremendous. I'll use Jersey City as an example. Jersey City is one of those departments that works 8 hours. Jersey City, New Jersey, for those of you that don't know, they work 8 hours, but their call volume is tremendous. If they're in the South or West District, they have a tremendous call volume. Now we'll go into increased stress levels. Increased stress levels, obviously for the obvious reasons. We see people at their worst. We go into scenarios that most people run from. We have to deal with high levels of stress on scenes. We see death, we see mourning, we see people at their worst a lot of times. And this is, whether it's a call for a emotionally disturbed person, motor vehicle accident, homicide, an assault, rape, crime on a juvenile. These are things that law enforcement deals with mostly on a daily basis, right? So this will raise the level of stress for law enforcement officers. And if that stress isn't mitigated, isn't handled, it could lead to other things. It could lead to mental illness. It could lead to depression, which is part of mental illness. It could lead to a lot of different things. And also another aspect of stress on the job has to do with dealing with the bullshit that we deal with at work, with administrators, supervisors, colleagues, the rank and file, okay? I'm not bashing anyone. It goes on everywhere. Every officer that I've spoken to, more as of late than ever, have expressed to me that they're just not happy, right? And it's a lot of the policies that are coming down from the Attorney General. I have no problem with the Attorney General. I just want to put that out there. I don't want anybody to misconstrue this and, use it for negative purposes. But there's policies that are in place that kind of handcuff law enforcement officers from doing their job. And outside of those policies over our head, we also have interdepartmental policies which stop us from wanting to do our job and have us second guessing ourselves. And then we have to deal with the aspect of the drama within these departments. Who doesn't like who gets along with who has this opinion, who has that opinion, who's dating who. It's just nonsense. It happens everywhere. It's not only in law enforcement. It happens in the corporate field. And it happens in the private sector, blue, white collar, so on and so forth. You already know the deal. It is what it is. We could be big babies sometimes. And I was one of those individuals that was toxic, man. I keep it real. I had a big mouth. I opened my mouth. I was very critical of people. I was, get into that mode and it becomes a toxic setting and it causes high levels of stress. The retention crisis among law enforcement agencies is a complex issue with no easy solution. However, understanding the reasons behind this trend is a crucial first step in addressing the problem. By acknowledging the challenges faced by police officers and working to improve pay, benefits, public perception, we can help an environment where law enforcement professionals feel valued, supported, and motivated to continue serving their respective communities. All right? There you go. Very simple, straight cut, but it's mostly common sense. It's straight to the point, man. We all want to feel valued. All right? We all want to feel appreciated. And in a high stress level careers such as law enforcement. And I'm also throwing out the fire department, EMTs, military. We're all along the same line, man. Okay. We see trauma. We go into scenes that are chaotic. Okay. And we have to live with this. A lot of times we have to live with this. And one thing that was pretty traumatic for me, it ended up being positive, was I was on a car stop one day in West New York, New Jersey. I had stopped a lady from Staten Island, and I'm engaging her in conversation, right? Getting all her information. And I get a car that pulls up to me, right? And people inside the car are screaming frantically. It's about 11 at night. So I'm like, what's going on? This is before body cams, maybe like 6 months before body cameras. The mother, I realized that the father has no shirt on. Well, who was found out to be the father was driving. I saw two women in the back holding a baby. Okay. Right off the bat, I'm thinking like, this is an Uber driver. What's going on? Like, right off the bat, your mind's going 1,000 miles per minute. And the mother jumps out the car, who was later identified as the mother, screaming in Spanish. And she throws me her baby and says that the baby's unresponsive. And she's panicking, just throws the baby on me. And I have to perform CPR on a baby. The baby was not responsive at first. And trust me when I say tunnel vision is a real thing. Everything started moving super slow, all right? But training came into play. I knew to notify dispatch of what I had. I told them to send me ALS, Advanced Life Services, to come to the scene. I had a baby that was unresponsive, and I started CPR. I did everything that I learned in training and that I knew to do. And by the grace of God, the baby, started responding, started crying out loud, which is obviously a great sign. And the baby was okay, went to the hospital. I say that is a traumatic event, right? It's traumatic in the way that if it would have went south, it could have been very traumatic for me, right? Because I am a father. No one wants to hold, thankfully, knock on wood, that it didn't happen, but no one ever wants to be part of a scenario or incident where a baby dies, okay? Especially my children are still young, but younger at the time, and I can't even imagine what these parents were feeling. So, for me, it could have went south. And that's just one scenario that I remember vividly that really kind of shook me up, man. But I was also very happy and very proud that this baby was able to start responding and, ended up being okay. Okay. And I stayed in contact with that family and made sure I went back to the house, made sure that the family was okay. The baby was okay. And by the grace of God, the baby was okay. I haven't spoke to the family since then. But with that being said, we deal with trauma on a regular basis. There's officers that have been shot. There's officers that have witnessed, someone die in front of them. There's officers that have been in my situation, did not have a positive outcome, okay, where unfortunately the baby passed away. There's numerous scenarios and situations that law enforcement officers are forced to be in. People say, well, yeah, you chose this profession. Absolutely. And the crazy thing is, I read somewhere, why do people join the ranks of law enforcement when they themselves suffer trauma? And I read something interesting, and it said normally people that suffer trauma or have dealt with trauma sometime in their life, they join law enforcement or first response because they want to try to help others not go through that same trauma, or they want to help people overcome that trauma. So that's why essentially they want to be heroes to other people and they want to help people. All right. And that's why a lot of people become law enforcement officers. And I could say for myself, thinking back, I wasn't thinking about that. Like, I want to be a hero. I was thinking like, man, this is a great opportunity to be a leader in my community. First law enforcement officer in my family. This was a great accolade for me and my family. And also I could leave a positive impact in the people that I interact with throughout my career. That's what I was thinking, at the time. 18 years later, I'm still here by the grace of God. But I have suffered from anxiety. There were times that I silently suffered from what I believe is depression. I never got diagnosed with it, nothing, but there were times that I was going through it. And there were times where I was second guessing my career in law enforcement. Never thought about quitting, but I was always like, man, did I make the wrong decision? But God made it clear to me that I didn't. And he put me in a place where it was very, very clear that I was meant to be here. And this is my purpose. And to be here and running the Bridges Project, doing community policing, being involved in my community, he made it clear to me that this is my purpose and the reason why I'm here. But we have to stop these officers from leaving the profession, especially the good officers, man. And I encourage all the supervisors out there that have that power, man, to change the dynamic, to change the culture within their department by doing simple things. Acknowledging when your officers do a good job. It really means a lot to an officer, to people in general, when you give them praise in public, right? You discipline in private, praise in public. Too often, supervisors want to embarrass people, right? They want to embarrass officers or their subordinates and make them feel a certain way. One of my pet peeves is don't embarrass me. Don't talk to me any type of way in front of people, especially, period. But in front of people, especially, pull me aside. I don't have a problem with a supervisor ripping me a new asshole on the side and say, yo, you messed up. You did this, bam, 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 right? I don't mind that. I don't mind getting pow, pow on the side. But in front of people, embarrassing someone in front of people and demeaning them, that's a form of bullying. Let's keep it real, man. Yeah, I'm not here to be like, we got to be walking on eggshells and everything. People, we have to be grown up in law enforcement. We have to be grown-ups. We have badges. We have guns. We have to stop acting like babies, okay? Everything can't be offensive. We have to start acting like adults, okay? And I was immature at the inception of my career as well. I had a lot of learning to do, made a lot of mistakes. But also, I was reading in law enforcement, something that's lacking is mentorship. Mentorship. We need seasoned officers, right, that have been on the job and have enough experience, not only police experience, but life experience to teach these officers how to navigate through their career and how to overcome their personal obstacles. FTO means Field Training Officer in Law Enforcement. We all get them when we're on patrol, right? And some FTOs are disgruntled, man, and they don't want to teach anybody. And they don't want anybody to ride with them. They're miserable. It breaks up their schedule. They feel like we're interrupting what they're trying to do. We need officers to mentor other officers, and you don't need the title of field training officer. If you see an officer struggling, if you see an officer making bad decisions, failing, take time to speak to that officer. And if you can, put that officer or place that officer under your wing until they're able to fly alone. And the gratification that you will receive from the outcome is unbelievable. Because when you are ready to retire, that officer that you helped may be in a position of supervision, and they will tell you that they are grateful to you for taking your time to pull them out of the trenches of failure and helping them at a time of need, right? To me, that is the greatest award, to help somebody. And I'm not just saying this to gas this show up or gas myself up or blow smoke up your ass. No, this is real. I truly find gratification in seeing people succeed, man. A lot of times we get this energy from people, or, you know, they act a certain way towards us and we feel like it's us. It's about us. They don't like me. But we never take into account that maybe this person is going through something. Maybe this person is depressed. Maybe this person is going through something in their personal life and they have no one to talk to. And then when you give them an attitude on top of that, they think, oh man, this person don't like me either. These little things can be a segue into something major, where officers, we all know that law enforcement has one of the highest rates in suicide out of any profession. And this can lead, I'm a firm believer that these things that I'm naming and outlining are some of the reasons that officers commit suicide. Because a lot of officers don't have an outlet. They don't have somebody that they can trust. They don't have somebody that they can talk to. I just had a conversation the other day, and I'm man enough to say this. I cried with another officer. Won't mention names, obviously. Won't mention the department. But I had to rebuke myself. Well, God rebuked me and spoke to me clearly. And God told me, man, it's not about you, man. The world doesn't revolve around you. Sometimes you have to put your feelings aside to complete the mission ahead. You got to put your own feelings and what you perceive to be somebody not liking you. You got to put that aside because you don't know what people are dealing with. And man, I had a conversation with somebody else. They shed some light on some things. And through that conversation, God spoke to me clearly and vividly. And I spoke to this other officer, and this officer cried, man. And I felt the pain. I felt it. And I'm man enough to say that it was so deep that I cried with them. Gave this officer a hug. I said sorry because I was shunning this officer. Because I was believing that, you know what? Yeah, but this person does this and they do that and they don't care about, but I never took into consideration that this officer might be struggling with something. A heart to heart with another officer, and man, did I feel such a relief, man, that wall was coming down. How often do you walk into work and you feel uncomfortable because you don't get along with anybody, or you have nothing in common with anybody you work with, or you feel like you're not liked and people don't like you? There's a lot of us out there. There's a tremendous amount of us that feel this way. How terrible is it to walk into a career, walk into a job where you're serving the public, right? You're serving the public, you're going out there, and even before roll call starts, you're already miserable, right? That's how your day's starting. We got to start creating a more comfortable setting for each other. We need supervisors to step in, administrators to step in and start putting officers in a comfortable setting, and guess what? Having meetings and acknowledging and giving awards and helping officers outside of work. Because listen, a lot of the issues we deal with are not even from work. They're not work related. They're personal. They're family. They're monetary. They're outside of work and they trickle into work, and it creates a toxic atmosphere. We have to look at these officers. We have to say, okay, something's not right. Our job is to be observant. observe behavior. We see this going on, we have to look out for each other, and we have to try to nip it in the bud before it snowballs into something more serious. And God forbid we're wearing Class A's to somebody's funeral. And guess what? You're going to look at yourself and you're going to say, damn, I knew something was wrong. Damn, I knew something was off. And you even have officers who are super happy, always smiling, who are struggling. But I believe that silence speaks volumes. When you see somebody is silent, when you see somebody like disappearing, not really showing up, you know, their performance is changing. You know, you got to look after these things. You got to really be cognizant of what's going on around you and the people you work with. All right. So I'm reading off of my notes here on my computer. And job satisfaction, the key to retention. And I'm going to end it with this for this episode. Ensuring high levels of job satisfaction among our officers is crucial for maintaining a stable and effective workforce. According to a study published in the journal Policing, job satisfaction is a significant determination of an officer's intention to stay or leave their position. Here are some ways to enhance job satisfaction among your officers. Number 1, recognition and rewards. I just spoke about this before I read this. Regularly recognizing and rewarding officers for their hard work, dedication, and achievements can boost morale and job satisfaction. Implementing a formal awards program or simply acknowledging officers' accomplishments during meetings can go a long way in making them feel valued and appreciated. Empowerment and autonomy. Giving officers more autonomy in decision-making and empowering them to take on leadership roles can increase job satisfaction. What that means to me is the micromanagement has to stop. Allow officers to make decisions, right? Let them make their own decisions according to the training that they've received, 6 months of training in New Jersey Police Academy, and then the interdepartmental training that we receive, as well as the on-the-job training. Let your officers make the decisions. That's the only way they're going to learn. Encourage officers to participate in departmental planning and policy development, and provide opportunities for them to lead projects or initiatives. Love that. Work-life balance. Supporting a healthy work-life balance can help improve job satisfaction and reduce burnout. Ensure that officers have access to resources that promote mental and physical well-being, such as employee assistance programs, stress management training, and fitness facilities. Love it. We just spoke about all that, right? We need, we need assistance in life. We need assistance emotionally, mentally, and physically. Okay. So I just spoke about this. They also mentioned training programs, mentorship, develop a mentorship program that pairs experienced officers with new recruits. I just said that. This can help new officers acclimate to the department, while also providing valuable leadership experience for more seasoned officers. Awesome. This is awesome, man. Like I said, people, look out for each other. We're in a profession where at any given moment, shit could hit the fan and we got to lean on each other. It could be a life-threatening scenario. It could be, anything. We have to lean on each other. But we have to lean on each other more with things outside of work, right? And try to see what's going on with each other and check on each other. And I believe this starts with the administration and the supervision. It trickles down. It trickles down. They set the tone. They are the Michael Jordans. They set the tone for what type of environment they will have in their department. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Once again, this is Bookem, the host of The Bookem Show. I'm also founder and creative director for the Bridges Project, Inc. And you already know, be a part of the community, not apart from the community. I'm out.
And it told me I'm never gonna make it, so I should just quit today. My dream too big and most people will never see things my way. So will I quit? No way, no way. I ain't gonna stop now. No way, no way.